There are moments in history when a country quietly changes direction, and most people don't notice until it's already happened. India is in one of those moments right now. In just one decade, a nation once described as fragile, slow, and always catching up is suddenly being talked about as the future engine of the global economy. The world's fastest growing major country, a strategic power everyone wants on their side, a place where the next chapter of the 21st century might actually be written. And at the center of this shift is one man, Narendra Modi. To some, he's the architect of India's rise, a leader who restored confidence, speed, and ambition to a billion-plus people. To others, he's deeply controversial, a figure who divides opinion like few leaders on earth today. So which one is true? Is Modi genuinely transforming India, or is this just clever branding and political theater? Is India really on a path to becoming a developed nation by 2047, or is the story more complicated? In this video, I want to step back from slogans, emotions, and social media noise. We're going to examine what has actually changed, what hasn't, and why the world is paying such close attention to India right now. Because whether you admire him or criticize him, one thing is undeniable. India under Modi is not the same country it was 10 years ago. Before we talk about what's happening now, we need to understand where India was just 10 years ago. Picture this. It's 2014. India is part of what global economists called the Fragile Five, a group of developing countries considered at high risk of economic problems. The country that had once been the world's sixth largest economy after independence had fallen to 11th place. Think about that. India fell 5 spots in the global economic rankings. That's not just standing still, that's going backward. The banking sector was close to collapse. Bad loans, money that banks lent but couldn't get back, were piling up like a mountain. Roads and buildings were falling apart. Foreign investors didn't trust India. And there was this widespread feeling, both inside and outside India, that the country had missed the bus on development opportunities. That phrase, India missed the bus, was used all the time. It became a dark joke, a way of saying India had wasted its chances. But here's what's amazing. That was only 10 years ago. Fast forward to today, and India is rapidly becoming the world's third largest economy. The same banking sector that was dying is now making record profits. The same country that nobody wanted trade deals with has just signed historic agreements with the European Union's 27 countries and the United States. The transformation isn't just about money, it's about how Indians feel about themselves. It's cultural. It's about India's place in the world. So what happened? How does a country of over 1 billion people turn things around this dramatically in just one decade under Modi's leadership? That's the question we're exploring today. While wealthy nations like Japan, Germany, and even China are dealing with aging populations and fewer workers, India is getting younger. The median age in India is around 28 years old. Let me repeat that. 28 years old. Compare that to Japan at 49, Germany at 48, or the United States at 38. What does this mean? It means India has the world's largest pool of young, increasingly educated, digitally connected workers entering the job market right now and for the next several decades. Economists call this a demographic dividend, but only if the country can use it properly. If you can't create opportunities for young people, this advantage becomes a disaster. You get unemployment, protests, and instability. This is where Modi's government has made some really smart moves. They've focused heavily on skill training programs, business support, and digital infrastructure. The goal is to prepare this massive young population not just to find jobs, but to create them. Programs like Mudra, which gives loans to small businesses without requiring collateral, have distributed over 30 lakh crore rupees, around $360 billion, to help young people start their own businesses. A huge number of these beneficiaries are women, which is another important part of this transformation. Modi's government has also invested heavily in digital payment infrastructure, UPI, or Unified Payments Interface, which has become one of the world's most successful digital payment systems. India now processes more digital transactions than almost any other country. This matters because it brings previously excluded people into the formal economy. Villages, poor communities, women who didn't have access to traditional banking. They're now participating in the economy in ways that were impossible just a few years ago. Let's talk about technology, because this is where things get really exciting under Modi's government. India isn't just trying to catch up with other countries. It's trying to jump directly into the most advanced technologies. Space exploration. India's space program has become incredibly cheap and successful. They sent a spacecraft to Mars on their first try, and it cost less than making a Hollywood movie. Recently, an Indian astronaut reached the International Space Station, a huge achievement. Digital infrastructure. I mentioned UPI for payments earlier, but India has also built a digital identity system called Aadhaar that covers over 1 billion people. Whatever people think of it, the scale is unprecedented in human history. Green technology. Modi's government is investing heavily in green hydrogen, solar power, and renewable energy. They understand that the future economy will be green, and they're positioning India to be a leader in that space. Artificial intelligence. There's a national AI mission getting global attention. Major tech companies believe India's AI capabilities could become world-leading, partly because of the talented people, and partly because new solutions can be tested on a massive scale. Quantum computing. India is investing in quantum research, knowing that whoever leads in quantum technology will have huge advantages in everything from security to medicine development. What's Modi's strategy here? It's clear. Don't just buy technology from other countries. Create it, innovate it, build India's own capabilities. This is especially important for critical minerals and strategic resources. Modi has said explicitly that India shouldn't depend on any other country for critical materials. That's thinking long-term about economic security and India's independence. Let me shift gears and talk about something that really fascinates me: India's changing role in global geopolitics. For decades, India was kind of ignored. It wasn't part of Western alliances like NATO. It wasn't part of the communist side either. It followed non-alignment, which meant staying out of Cold War politics. But in today's world, India's position has become incredibly important. First, geography. India sits between Asia, the Middle East, and the Indian Ocean. It's a natural bridge between East and West. Second, size. With 1.4 billion people, India is too big to ignore. What happens in India affects global markets, politics, and security. Third, and most important, as tensions between the US and China have grown, India has become a critical partner for Western countries looking for alternatives to China. Modi has handled this brilliantly. India has strengthened partnerships with the United States, Japan, Australia, and Europe, while still maintaining traditional friendships with Russia and expanding ties with Africa and Latin America. Recent trade deals prove this. The agreement with the European Union involves 27 countries. That's huge. The trade deal with the United States represents a fundamental shift in how these two major democracies work together economically. But what's really impressive is India's role as the voice of developing nations. At forums like the G20, which India hosted recently, Modi positioned India as the representative of poorer countries, not fighting against rich countries, but as a bridge between them. This is soft power at its best. India isn't trying to dominate. It's trying to help, to facilitate, to offer solutions. And the world is responding. Foreign money is pouring in. Major manufacturers are looking at India as an alternative to China. Tech companies are opening research centers in Bangalore and Hyderabad. Another one of the most striking things about Modi's time in power has been the revival of Indian cultural pride. This can be a sensitive topic, but it's important to understand. For decades after independence, there was an odd situation. Western things, Hollywood movies, American brands, European fashion, were seen as better and more modern. Indian cultural things were sometimes seen as old-fashioned or less sophisticated. That's changing quickly under Modi's government. There's been a big push for Swadeshi, which means supporting Indian-made products. Not by closing India off from the world, but by saying we should be proud of what we create. Events like the Mahakumbh in Prayagraj, a huge religious gathering, are being celebrated not just as religious events, but as proof of India's ability to organize massive events and showcase its cultural heritage. The construction of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya, whatever people's religious views, represents a statement about cultural identity and India's long history. International Yoga Day has become global, with the UN recognizing it and millions of people worldwide participating. What's happening is that India is taking back control of its cultural story. Instead of apologizing for its traditions or just copying Western models, there's a growing belief that Indian culture, Indian spirituality, and Indian wisdom have value in today's world. This matters for the economy too. Cultural confidence creates powerful brands. It helps tourism. It influences how Indian companies present themselves globally. It shapes how Indians living abroad, one of the most successful immigrant communities worldwide, connect with their roots. Let me explain some more specific reforms that are particularly interesting. Banking reform. When Modi came to power, India's government banks were in terrible shape, drowning in bad loans. What did Modi's government do? They merged weak banks with stronger ones. They made banks more transparent. They went after people who took loans and didn't pay back. They gave banks money to become financially stronger. The result? Bad loans have dropped below 1%. Banks are making record profits. Banks are lending more money, especially to small businesses and villages. Building infrastructure. Modi's government has been building nonstop. Highways, trains, ports, airports, construction everywhere. The numbers are huge. Thousands of kilometers of new highways, new metro trains in many cities, modern airports, special train lines just for moving goods. This isn't just about easier travel. It's about making it cheaper to move products, connecting buyers and sellers, and helping businesses grow. Manufacturing push. The Make in India program wants India to become a manufacturing powerhouse. It's worked in some areas like smartphones. India now makes most of the phones sold in the country and exports them too. Defense manufacturing is another focus. Instead of buying all military equipment from other countries, India is trying to build its own. This creates jobs and makes India less dependent on others. Agricultural reform. This has been more controversial, but Modi's government has tried to modernize farming through better prices, direct money to farmers, and better irrigation. The PM Kisan scheme gives cash directly to small farmers, over 2 lakh crore rupees given so far. That's real money going straight to rural families. Energy transition. India is doing two hard things at once, giving electricity to more people while also switching to cleaner energy. Solar power has grown enormously. There are big goals for electric vehicles. The green hydrogen mission aims to make India a leader in this new clean fuel. For the last 40 years, China's growth has been the biggest story among developing countries. But now China faces serious problems: fewer young people, slower economy, and tensions with other countries. India offers a different model. India is a democracy, not a dictatorship like China. India's population is young, while China's is getting old. India is just starting to industrialize, while China is already shifting away from factories. For Western democracies worried about depending too much on China, India is an alternative partner. For developing countries looking for examples to follow, India shows that democracy can work. This is why the whole world is watching India so closely right now. It's not just about India's own success, it's about what India represents as the world changes. The fact that India is achieving this transformation while keeping democratic institutions, even if they're not perfect, is important. It proves something powerful. You don't need a dictatorship to develop quickly. Democracy and development can go together. Under Modi's leadership, India is showing the world that there's more than one way for a poor country to become prosperous, and that the democratic way is possible. One big difference in Modi's approach is his focus on actually finishing what he starts. In many developing countries, governments announce big plans, start projects, and hold ceremonies, but nothing actually gets completed. India had plenty of this in the past. Politicians would announce projects to win votes, but never finish them. Money was set aside, but never used. Plans were made, but never carried out. Modi has been determined to change this. The Pragati platform is one tool he uses. Every month, the Prime Minister's office holds video meetings with central ministries and state governments. They solve problems in real time and track progress. But it goes beyond meetings. Modi's government has created a culture of accountability. Technology tracks whether work is actually happening. Satellite images monitor construction sites. Digital systems make it harder for officials to steal money. The Aspirational Districts program is a good example. These were India's most underdeveloped districts, places that were basically given up on. Modi's government identified them, put motivated officers in charge, gave them resources and freedom to work, and tracked their progress on health, education, nutrition, and infrastructure. The results have been impressive in many places. Districts that seemed hopeless have shown real improvement. This focus on last-mile delivery, actually getting help to the people who need it, shows a real change in how India's government works under Modi. For a long time, India was only good at one sport, cricket. But now Modi's government is working hard to change that. Modi's government has built new sports facilities, hired better coaches, and given more support to athletes. The results are beginning to show. Indian athletes are now winning medals at world competitions. Para-athletes, athletes with disabilities, have been especially successful, winning many medals and inspiring millions of people. In cricket, both men's and women's teams are doing well. The women's cricket team winning the World Cup is extra special because women's sports were ignored for so long. Why does sports success matter? Sports give a country soft power, a good reputation around the world. When athletes win, it makes people proud of their country, encourages young people to play sports, and makes the world see India differently. When Indian athletes stand on the winner's podium with their medals, it shows the world something important. India is rising. It's not just about the medals themselves, it's about what those medals represent. They tell a story of a country that is getting stronger, more confident, and more successful in every area under Modi's leadership. One of Modi's main ideas is trusting Indian people to build the country. In the past, India's leaders saw the huge population as a problem. Too many people, not enough resources. Modi sees it differently. He says 1.4 billion people means 1.4 billion talented, creative minds who can solve problems. This isn't just talk. The government's plans have changed to help people help themselves, not make them dependent on handouts. Financial programs give people bank accounts and loans. Digital systems give them internet and access to information. Training programs teach them skills. Business support gives them chances to start companies. The goal is simple. Create the right conditions, then let people's energy and hard work drive the country forward. This is different from old systems where the government controlled everything from the top. It's also different from pure free market systems that leave people with no safety net. It's a mix. The government builds roads, internet, and creates opportunities. But people's own effort and ideas create the actual growth and new innovations. Will this work? That depends on one big question. Can everyone really access these opportunities, or do they mainly help people who are already doing well? Time will tell if this approach truly lifts all Indians, or just some. India has a big goal for 2047, which is to become a fully developed country. This means good incomes for everyone, modern roads and buildings, leadership in technology, pride in Indian culture, and strong influence in the world. Can India really do this? Let's be honest. There are huge problems ahead. Climate change will hurt India badly. Water shortages could become serious. Millions of people are moving to cities, and managing this will be very difficult. Many developing countries get stuck at middle income and never become rich. India needs to avoid this trap. But there are reasons to feel hopeful. Things are moving in the right direction. The systems India is building can last. The plan is clear. The government is getting better at getting things done. India doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be better today than it was yesterday. And by that measure, progress is real and clear. The economy is growing. Roads, airports, and internet are getting better. People are using new technology faster. India's voice in the world is getting stronger. India still faces enormous challenges. Poverty, while decreasing, is still widespread. Income inequality is significant. Infrastructure, while improving, still lags behind East Asian competitors in many areas. Air pollution in major cities is a serious health crisis. Water scarcity is an emerging threat. And politically, Modi is a polarizing figure. His critics, and there are many, argue that his government has been divisive, that minority communities feel marginalized, that dissent is being suppressed, that the media is too compliant. These are serious criticisms that deserve serious consideration. The economic data shows real improvement. The geopolitical positioning has been effective. The infrastructure development is tangible and measurable. What's happening in India right now is truly important and worth understanding, not just for Indians, but for every person on this planet. A country with 1.4 billion people, that's nearly 1 out of every 5 human beings alive today, is trying to completely transform itself from a struggling developing nation into a modern, prosperous powerhouse. If India succeeds, it will fundamentally change how the world works, economically, politically, and culturally. Think about the scale for a moment. This isn't a small country experimenting with new policies. This is more people than North America, South America, and Europe combined, all moving in the same direction at the same time. What happens in India doesn't stay in India. It ripples across the entire globe. For other poor and developing countries, India's story will teach crucial lessons. If India can lift hundreds of millions out of poverty while maintaining democracy, it proves there's an alternative path to development, one that doesn't require authoritarian control or sacrificing freedom for progress. Countries across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia are watching closely, asking, if India can do it, can we? For rich countries, India's rise is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it creates massive new business opportunities. A growing middle class of hundreds of millions means new customers for products, new markets to enter, new partnerships to form. But it also means serious new competition. Indian companies are no longer just cheap manufacturers. They're innovators, disruptors, and global players competing for the same customers, talent, and resources. For the whole world, India's choices will shape everything. Trade patterns will shift as India becomes a manufacturing hub. Climate negotiations will revolve around how India, one of the largest energy consumers, balances development with environmental responsibility. Technology standards will be influenced by what works for a billion Indian users. Immigration patterns will change as India either becomes a destination for talent or continues exporting its educated workforce globally. Leading this massive transformation is a leader with a clear plan, iron determination, and, most importantly, the proven ability to win elections and maintain popular support for his ambitious agenda. Modi isn't a dictator who can force change from the top. He has to convince voters, win their trust, and deliver results that keep them coming back to support him election after election. People have wildly different opinions about Modi. Some see him as a visionary who will make India a superpower. Others see him as dangerous, divisive, or authoritarian. Many fall somewhere in between, appreciating some policies while criticizing others. But here's what even his harshest critics cannot deny. He has fundamentally changed India's direction and its place in the world. The India of 2014 and the India of 2025 are almost unrecognizable as the same country. The big questions remain unanswered, and they're questions that will define this century. Can India keep this momentum going for another 20 years? Or will it hit obstacles that slow or reverse progress? Will the economic benefits spread to all Indians, the rural poor, religious minorities, lower castes, women in conservative regions? Or will growth mainly help those already doing well, creating dangerous inequality? Can India achieve developed nation status while maintaining its democratic character? Or will there be pressure to sacrifice freedoms for faster development? Will India's federal system, where states have significant power, allow for coordinated national progress? Or will regional differences create fragmentation? Can India manage its diverse population of different religions, languages, and cultures without serious conflict as economic change disrupts traditional ways of life? Nobody knows the answers for certain. Not economists, not political scientists, not Modi himself. We're watching a massive, unprecedented experiment in real time. But here's why you should care. India's transformation will be one of the defining stories of our lifetime. When your children and grandchildren study history, the rise of India in the early 21st century will be a major chapter, alongside the internet revolution, climate change, and the shifting global power balance. The whole world is paying attention because what happens in India will affect everyone, from the prices you pay for goods, to the apps you use on your phone, to the geopolitical stability of entire regions, to whether we successfully address climate change as a global community. India's success or failure won't just determine the fate of 1.4 billion Indians. It will shape the world we all live in.